next thing I want to talk to you about is really one of the most powerful concepts that can help in everything that you do, help with your business, help with your team, help with your life, and it's the idea of extreme ownership. And that is taking ownership of everything that is going on in your world. It means that you can't blame anyone else or anything else when something goes wrong. That is it. It is on me as a leader. That is extreme ownership. Let's meet Naomi, a business owner who has been struggling to keep her team on board for the long haul. Naomi, what's going on with your team? What issues are you facing?
When I have a new hire that I'm bringing onto the team or someone that's been there for 6 months, a year, I feel that there is such high turnover, which is strange to me because I'm used to a little bit more of loyalty and seeing big picture. And what I find is when I'm interviewing people, best behavior, resume looks absolutely fantastic. Then you get into real life, you get into 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, they look at what I've been doing for almost 20 years, they don't understand why they aren't there. It's a huge disconnect. That's when we're running into problems.
There's a disconnect. You just said that there's a disconnect. So whose fault is it there's a disconnect?
Mine.
What do you think you're missing? What do you think you're lacking?
I need to be able to balance. If I'm more of a self-starter and they're not, I am not a micromanager. I hesitate to use the word expect because, you know, everyone in their own time.
You use the word expect, and I'm gonna use the word expectations. This person doesn't understand how much it takes to get this job done. That's my fault. I am going to proactively educate them.
You take ownership.
Yes, I'm going to take ownership.
Yeah.
So I would recommend when you're interviewing people, you set
That's great.
really hardcore expectations about how hard it is, about what a gut check it is, about what financial returns they can expect in the coming years, about how long it's gonna take to get to a point. You can actually help people move along that path faster. You can say that. You can say, look, it took me 12 years.
Right.
I can get you there probably in 5. You have a whole team that's gonna help you. I didn't have that. I did it myself. But the grind is real, and it's gonna be on you. And if you wanna come here, this is what you need to expect.
I love that.
So as you bring them up, as you invest in them, you educate them. You educate them in what this journey looked like. You educate them what steps you took. You educate them on the failures that you had. Yeah. You educate them that being together is infinitely stronger than being apart. One of the biggest obstacles to overcome when it comes to taking extreme ownership of what's going on in your world is actually ego.
Yeah.
Your ego is defensive, it likes to protect you, it's fragile, it lashes out. I'm not saying you shouldn't have any ego at all. You certainly are gonna have some ego that's driving you to wanna get promoted, to wanna sell more, to wanna build more. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it gets out of control, it becomes a serious problem. You have to think long term. You have to do some strategic thinking. In the military, there's strategic thinking, which is long-term, and tactical thinking, which is what we're going through right now. This battle, this firefight that we're in. Well, we have to always, in the military, in business, in life, think about the long-term results. So you might make a stand or allow your ego to make a stand right now that you think is a victory, but long-term, strategically, it's a loss. One of the most significant events that has happened to me in my life where I had to step up and take extreme ownership was a friendly fire incident that happened in Iraq. It was 2006 during the Battle of Ramadi. I had multiple elements out on the battlefield. I was out on the battlefield. Every element that we had was engaged in a gunfight. Through a series of mistakes and coincidences, my SEALs got into a gunfight with friendly Iraqi soldiers. One of the friendly Iraqi soldiers was killed. Several of the friendly Iraqi soldiers were wounded. One of my SEALs was wounded. And a friendly fire incident is just the absolute worst thing that can happen on the battlefield. It's bad enough to be wounded or killed by the enemy, but to be wounded or killed by friendly forces is just absolutely awful. There was obviously a lot of scrutiny on what had gone wrong and what had unfolded. My boss at the time immediately reached out to me and said he was flying to my location and he wanted a brief from me to find out exactly what had happened. And as I heard this message, I realized that, of course, they wanted to figure out who to blame. So I started putting together a brief and trying to figure out who I should blame. And there was plenty of mistakes that were made. There was a radio man that didn't pass the information of their new location, elements that didn't coordinate with each other. There was friendly forces that moved into sectors they weren't supposed to move into. And of course, there was a American that had shot a friendly Iraqi soldier without correctly identifying the target. So there was plenty of blame to go around, and I was trying to figure out which one of these individuals I should blame. And then, like a bolt of lightning, it hit me. The reason I felt uncomfortable trying to blame anyone else was because there was only one person to blame, and that person was me. I'm the overall commander. I'm in charge of everything that happens on the battlefield. And all of this was my fault. And I went before my commanding officer, before my entire task unit, and I told them that there's only one person to blame, and that person is me. And when I explained that to my boss, I thought there was a decent chance my boss was gonna look at me and say, okay, well, you're to blame, you're fired. But he actually didn't say that. He realized that since I had taken ownership of what had happened, I would fix the problem and I would prevent it from happening again. And his trust in me actually went up. And it's the same thing with my troops. Instead of me blaming my troops for what had gone wrong, I took ownership. And so they trusted me even more. Next up, the 4 leadership laws adapted from my military career that apply to all leadership scenarios. With business, with life, if one part of the team is doing their job, but the other part isn't, it's not just that part of the team that's not doing their job that fails. Everybody fails.